711 Macy Tompkins Road in Baytown is a full repair shop with factory-trained techs. Need a simple oil change or an entire engine replaced for gasoline or diesel? Power Stroke Specialist will do the job at the right price. Power Stroke Specialist, 711 Macy Tompkins Road in Baytown, open Monday through Friday, 8 to 6. Visit their website at power-stroke-specialist.com or call 832-597-6986.
Lee College has made one of the most exciting announcements in history. Free tuition for the summer 2020 semester. Board of Regents of Lee College have waived tuition, books, and fees for qualifying students. And you qualify if you are a graduate from one of their service area high schools in the 2019-2020 academic year, or if you've suffered a loss of income due to COVID-19, or you're an out-of-district resident who attended Lee in spring of 2020, or if you're an in-district student. This summer semester can be free. Go to www.lee.edu/free to find out more.
The Shine All 9 Community Bulletin Board is brought to you by Power Stroke Specialists.
If your church, club, school, charity, or other nonprofit organization has an announcement you'd like to be aired on the bulletin board, send the information to KSHN 2099 Sam Houston Liberty 77575. Or you can call us with the information at 336-5793 locally or 1-800-356-5793. Our fax number is 336-5250.
Good morning. It is 32 minutes after the hour of 8. Man, all week long I've gotten the time correct. 32 minutes after the hour of 8 o'clock, which means 28 minutes before the hour of 9. Don't you say a word. Just hush. I've been picking on Bill all day. It is what it is. There we go.
And we have
We have an unfortunate 7 people. For those 7 people that are watching on Facebook, let me apologize in advance. Because today's Partyline program is Bill and I, and if you're watching on Facebook, you can see there's a little, well, let me point at the camera. There's a little graphic up there that says, warning, pet peeves ahead. Bill and I were having a conversation the other day about one particular peeve that drives us both stark raving mad. Hi, Sandra. And so we said, let's do a party line on it. Like we couldn't find better things for the party line. We decided in our own sick and twisted way, yes, that's a great idea for a party line. Today will probably prove us wrong. Hi, Bill.
Hi.
How are you?
How's Tiff?
It's sunshiny and lollipop. It's a gorgeous day
Everything's
outside.
coming up roses.
Everything's coming up roses. Speaking of which, one of mine died.
One of your roses did?
Yeah.
The way you take care of those things, I'm surprised all of them have, but they are tough.
My roses are very well taken care of.
Really?
Yeah.
And you're going to convince...
It goes like this. My roses are well taken care of, followed by my dogs, followed by the cat, and finally down there is Hunter.
Thanks, Mom. Well, at any rate, this all started because of some Facebook stuff, which I guess is Tiffany really likes Facebook and uses it well. I have slowly but surely come to believe that there's a lot of good things that Facebook can do. There really is.
I think I find Facebook to be a necessary venue for sharing information. And just as much as we can share information on Facebook, I find that 90% we share is garbage. But there's 10% of that sharing of information is good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'll wait for you to finish.
I'm done.
But there's a lot of companies and organizations and stores and stuff like that do Facebook that's got useful information for that store. There's a lot of really useful organizations that put information on there pertinent to their organization. It's extremely good. It's a great, if you will, it's a great media. It's a great avenue to sharing information that's really positive. Mm-hmm. And then along come all those others. And that's where my problem was I was introduced to Facebook by these folks who are just really intent upon being mean. And the truth has nothing to do with it. And so that's how I got introduced to it. So I got down on them early, and I've worked my way back because there's so many nice things that happen on there. There really is.
I have found that more and more reputable organizations, businesses, and companies are using Facebook to share their message, and I like that.
I do too.
I like that.
I do too. And if they ever want to, we can tell them a radio station where they can advertise too.
If they should want to, we could probably help them out with that.
At any rate,
I may know some people.
But the downside of Facebook was what got me really down on people who bellyache about nothing. And so, having said that, there's lots of different things that you can get upset about. And when I was a kid, and I mean this literally, I say it fairly often on the air, but I mean this literally, across the back fence, the neighbors in the yard, frankly, the churches, the beauty shops and barber shops and stuff like that, where all this stuff that we now call Facebook fodder was when I was a kid. And it really was pretty bad. When I go to the barber shop and get my hair cut, I thought, gosh, do adults talk like this? And it was just kind of one of those things I just learned. If the water fountain at the office, it was kids in school telling stories about what their mom and dad did, how they got in the big fight and stuff like that. And all that stuff was nothing new about what's on Facebook. It's just so very, very public now, and that's bothered me a lot. But anyway, one of the things I probably this is self-defense now. I really got down on was people attacking the media who had no idea at all what they were talking about, and that kind of got Tiffany and I going on this conversation that led to this program. But the media there's certainly cause for griping about the media. But keep in mind one thing, and I know folks don't realize this, but as a profession, the news media, the good ones, and all of us know there's a few bad ones out there, but the really, really good ones' job is to ask questions. And right away that causes some negative conversation about positive things. But that's the people's job. If there's somebody standing there who's making an announcement about something, the media's responsibility. They're paid to do it. That's what they're supposed to do, is to ask questions that, yes, but couldn't this? And you ask then a question that prompts an answer. Somebody said, why do they always have to find something bad? That's what they're supposed to do. And I do not mean they're always supposed to find something bad, but they're supposed to be able to ask questions that will will test the theory of what's been just presented. It's what they do. It's when they're talking to political leaders, when they're talking to anybody, they're doing an interview about an accident or something like that. They should ask the other side of the question. We should ask that when the mayor makes a statement and it's controversial, we should go find a controversial side and ask them why is it controversial. It's what the responsibility is. If you don't give the other side the opportunity, there's a guy here in town who just hates my guts. I mean, really.
And he's not talking about me.
There's probably a lot of people fall in that category. But he every time he gets a chance, no, I shouldn't say that. It happened once or twice that he called me and just cussed and cussed and cussed and cussed. I could tell you that I don't particularly appreciate that kind of thing. If they if they want to talk to me and criticize me, that's fine. But how about growing up just a little bit and using some of the King's English without having to cuss every third word? But anyway, he loves to tell me what a dirty rat I am. And it all started over the fact that he didn't like what we said on our story one time about him, and what he said was what he did was definitely controversial. So I called him. I couldn't find him on the occasion. It was at a city council meeting, and I called him to make sure he knew he had an avenue where he could tell his side of the story, because the city council meeting was very, very one-sided. He had been invited, chose not to come, and then they got up and they talked about these things he was doing that was disrespectful to a set of circumstances, and I've said enough now. So I called him to give him that avenue, give him that opportunity. And he cussed me up one side and down the other. And finally I said, what are you so mad at me about? What have I ever done to you before? I'm offering you an opportunity that costs you nothing to tell your side of the story because I don't like the way you drive. I said, what? Well, it turns out, I didn't know this at the time. I've never met this man, still face to face, but it turns out that I drive past his house. And every time I go by his house, he said, you blow right through that stop sign and never stop for a second. Well, first of all, that wasn't true. I'm not going to deny it. Not that somebody's calling me all these names. I'm just going to tell them I called here for a particular reason. And at any rate, so the story ends real quickly when finally I said, you haven't a clue what you're talking about. I have gone down that street fairly fast sometime when the station was off the air or something like that. No question about that. I've never blown through that stop sign without pausing or doing something or slowing way down to check the one direction you have to be concerned about when you're at this particular intersection. And that's all I've ever done. They're a liar. You go through it every time you drive through. Well, you know what I found out? At that particular time, I was driving a gray Durango. And there's 4 gray Durangos exactly like mine in about a 10-block area, maybe 15-block area, past that man's house. And apparently one of them was a really lousy driver, and he was blaming on me every time. Didn't matter. I wasn't going to tell him that. He was too busy calling my mother dirty names and stuff like that, and he didn't even know my mother. But what he said must have been because he didn't like her, because he's said several bad things about her. At any rate, that kind of thing really drives me crazy. And we are supposed to be the fourth estate. We're supposed to be the people who ask questions so that both sides have an opportunity. You can't do it with everybody. You can't do it every time somebody's thrown in jail for something. First of all, you don't have access to it. But we really do are supposed to do things that you can write down as controversial. But a lot of people forget that, so they just get mad at the news media over what the news media is doing about doing their job.
My turn?
Yep.
Okay. So Bill said all of that to lead to this. Every once in a while, you will hear people say, you guys don't ever do anything but bad stuff. Okay? And so we said, that's not true. We do lots of good stories about graduates, about people that are doing really cool things in this world, about unique opportunities for and I was talking to another reporter from this area who does an online news service, and she said the same thing. She said, oh yeah, we get accused of this all the time. We are not covering the good stuff. So we started, we talked there on the phone, and we started comparing numbers. She's been at it a long time, so she's been, really, really doing well with her website. And she said, oh, yeah. She said, I post information about what the school is doing, and I'll get 100 hits on that story. If I post about an accident, I'll get 20,000. And she's not wrong.
That's right.
And she's not wrong. And so what I did here, wrong mouse. I'm controlling 2 different computers here. What I did here was I went and looked at some stories that we've posted in the last several days. Okay? Sheriff's Department is looking for a burglary team.
Mm-hmm.
That was posted, and 653 people looked at that story. National Police Week was the same week that we posted that story.
Tip the hat at the folks in blue.
Right. 13 hits. 13.
This will get embarrassing, folks. I've done this all my life, and it's
okay. So Ross did a 2-part series on Mother's Day. It's history and such as that. It got 21 hits. Let's go down a little bit. Mother's Day history, 21 hits. A wreck that we did a story on that ended up being a fatality, and the family lost a family member. 982. So Mom got 21. I'm looking here. A blood drive. Desperate need of blood. Blood drive. 4. 4 people went and looked at that. 4 people. A Chambers County drowning. 398.
How many?
398. And it goes on and on and on. Ken DeFore, captain of the Liberty County Sheriff's Department, was honored for his 40-plus years in law enforcement, in service to his community in many different organizations and areas. 31. Beautiful young lady who originally lived in Devers, was horribly murdered in Minnesota. And it's a tragic story. And the poor girl, it just breaks my heart. 5,104. And those were in the same week. So if you're going to say that the media does not report the good news, you're either A, lying, or B, not paying attention. For every bad news story that I have posted, and I'm going through the list here, is 5 may not be good news stories, but they're not tragedies. They're blood drives. They're, well, this year not so much, but they're food drives, baseball games, softball games. They're honors for individuals. They're an organization that did something really cool for the community.
Valedictorian,
salutatorians. What the schools are doing for their students in this pandemic situation. There's information out there that's warm and fuzzy. You're choosing not to read it.
Yeah, no question. And to take this another step, I have a favorite comparison. I've done it before, but not very often. It's been a long time since I've done this comparison on the Partyline program. But when I first came here, this is a long, long time ago, and a lot of people here will find this hard to believe, and because they're younger and don't realize this. And I'm not being critical of them being younger. The point I'm making is, when we came here, there really was just 3 TV stations that we got. I guess it was actually 4, but 3 really popular TV stations. That was the 3 major networks: the ABC affiliate, the CBS affiliate, the NBC affiliate. Those were the 3 major stations. There was another one. I can't remember what it was at the time. It's still there, but I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to date it. I can't remember exactly what its affiliation was then. But for all practical purposes, there was 3 big boys. Mm-hmm. I'll go ahead and identify them because all those people are gone now, and they're not there now. So but ABC was blood, guts, and gore. Okay. Anything that bled was going to get lots of coverage. Anything that was criminal was going to get lots of coverage. Anything that was really, really negative was going to get lots of coverage on their TV station. And then there was Channel 2, which is at the time Ron Stone, Doug Johnson was the weather guy, and Ron Franklin was a sports guy. Was absolutely the most respectful news media you have ever seen. Yes, they had some negative stories because that's part of the society we live in, have for a long, long time. But they had the most positive, upbeat type of thing. They always were getting the other side of the story if it was negative. They were doing just some great stuff. And their presentation was very professional and very well done. The other TV station was Channel 11. And at the time, there's, again, none of these people that lead, none of the directors, none of the on-air personalities and stuff like that are there anymore. So I'm mentioning names here because of something that happened a long, long time ago, and I wouldn't be this disrespectful if they were still there. But the other one was Channel 11. And Channel 11, I called it Tinker Toy TV because they were really, really just absolutely blah. Now, they had a very good anchor, and I'm not going to his name or anything like that, but had a good anchor. But he was surrounded by people who knew nothing about what they were doing. They were very, very weak, very, very but they did a lot of silly stuff. And what broke my heart about that, and this is why why I'm telling this story. Channel 13 had this gigantic lead in the ratings. Ratings means dollars and cents to TV stations and radio stations, for that matter, in big markets. They don't play such a role in our size market, but in the big size market, they play a big role. We had a huge lead, and Channel 2, with the most professional news organizations you could ever ask for anywhere in any community, really went about it right. Battle every month, every book, which is every quarter, every rating book, to just barely beat out Tinker Toy TV, because there was such a domination of the marketplace by blood, guts, and gore. Now, folks, you can blame the media all you want for that. You can blame the media for all to whatever extent you want to, but you're not thinking. The only reason that they were like that then, and you'll have to draw your own conclusions about now, because they've all changed personalities several times in the years since that time. Changed staff, changed personalities several times since that time. But all you have to do is say, these folks cannot function. They can't buy those helicopters. They can't buy those big expensive trucks. They can't hire those several staff members to have 8 or 10 people out in the field covering stories. They can't do that without money. And don't tell me it's all about the dollars. So is your job too, buddy. But at any rate, the point I'm trying to make is they won that thing by presenting the worst possible face of Houston that they could, the very unhappiest part of Houston that they could. And they won that race, and now, as a result, they had the money to go buy the helicopters and go buy the news trucks and stuff like that. And the other two guys are running as hard as they can, trying to keep up and have a few dollars to do some of those same things themselves. But every time somebody starts into the media and start ripping the media to shreds because of all the negativity and all the blood, guts, and gore, I just want to scream. Instead, I'll just zip it up and forget about it, because it's always been that way. As long as when I was a little daily newspaper in Richmond, Kentucky, it was that way. When I was a newspaper in Lexington, Kentucky, at the Lexington Herald Leader, it was that way. When first time I got around radio in Richmond, Kentucky, it was that way. It's always been that way. It bothers me a lot that folks don't stop and think about this. This is something you're connected with every day of your life, and you're saying all these terrible things without even thinking. It is about all the bucks. If they don't sell advertising, and in a major market TV station, they're not going to sell advertising unless they got ratings. Period. Right. End of subject. Because the ratings come out in New York, they go into the advertising agency, and the advertising agency places this high-priced advertising. And then now move forward down to Houston, Texas, and the exact same thing has happened. The smaller, independently owned businesses, the gallery furnitures and stuff like that, they have to go where the ratings are. They have to, or they're not going to survive. They're not going to get the people through their door that makes their living. And all those kinds of things are just as believable and predictable as anything. And yet here's this constant criticism about blood, guts, and gore media. And it's not that way so much anymore. They've really got some very positive things that they do. But folks are seeing what they want to see. They're seeing the blood, guts, and gore and criticize it. And they're the villain. End of story.
Anyway. All right. Where's it with 11? I don't know this one. We have a question.
Okay.
I don't know the answer to this one. You may, Bill. It says, wasn't Ron Stone originally with 11 when Sid Lasher was the weather guy drawing pictures of fronts on a giant tablet?
Well, that was before me. It really was.
That was? Okay.
Yeah,
all
but
right.
what you said was true. What they said was true. Ron Stone was at 11 before he switched to.
Okay.
You got to go way, way back in his career. He and Dan Rather worked together at Channel 11.
Okay. Well, now that's interesting. All right, so let's jump off media pet peeves. We've covered media pet peeves until we're
ad nauseum.
Ad nauseum, right. We've 20 minutes of our show has been media pet peeves. Let's move to other pet peeves.
All right.
And maybe we could be a little less mean than we've been.
I apologize, because you're right. I have been mean-spirited.
One thing I've noticed is pet peeves, people that touch their face while they're on camera. And the reason I notice this is because I do it constantly. And I'll see it up there later when I'm critiquing our videos. And I'm going, Tiffany, keep your hand away from your... Keep your hand away from your face, dummy. Anyway, all right.
You're talking about something you've been doing your entire life. And to turn that switch, incidentally, all these people are telling us how to conduct ourselves during the pandemic. Mm-hmm. You notice they're not saying don't touch your face very much anymore. They're still talking about hand washing.
Hand washing, right.
And still talking about these other hygiene things. But they don't say much about it because it's impossible.
Hand washing. Okay, so we're supposed to wash our hands to happy birthday. And then somebody told it to Bill, and then Bill told it to me, and I found that I do it. And it's one way to make sure that you say the Lord's Prayer every day, because you can do that same thing to the Lord's Prayer. And I like it because I have found that the first couple of times that I did it, I'm like, okay, our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. But as you do this 2 or 3 times a day, you find yourself focusing on what it is you're saying.
Right.
You start to realize that it's not just a way of counting down washing your hands, but you are speaking to a deity, a higher power. And however you choose to identify your higher power, in this case, we're identifying it as God. So you find yourself as the day goes on being a little bit more reverent about how you speak that prayer. I do.
I wish it was that good. My motivation is something entirely different. And believe me, I say the Lord's Prayer an awful lot. But I suddenly realized that I can't say it by myself. I keep forgetting the middle lines. I can remember the start, I can remember the finish. And so now I start concentrating more on the meaning of what I'm saying. And as what you said, the end result of what you said is true. But mine is different motivation. I feel stupid. My gosh, I've been saying that prayer since I was in elementary school, probably before that, back where I was growing up. I know that, but every time I've ever said it, I've always said it with somebody else.
A group,
maybe just one other person, even one other person. I was doing much better because we were both saying it, and I would never make a mistake, never trip. I trip over that doggone thing on that prayer. Pardon me, I don't mean to say it like it came out. Over that prayer every time I do it by myself. And I frankly, when I pray that's my own daggone business. How often
absolutely,
I pray.
You're right.
But most of the time, my prayer is a personal prayer and has to talk about. It talks about things other than that. I rarely ever said the Lord's Prayer by myself. I'm always praying about something else. Boy, I'm sure sorry I did that. That type of thing.
Oops.
That type of thing. But at any rate, now that I'm saying it by myself, washing my hand, I can't get through the darn thing without tripping over the middle lines.
We all have our moments. I was at a meeting. I was covering a meeting. The council in this particular application, or it wasn't the council, but the group of people that were meeting as a governmental entity, were virtually all native Texans. It was time for the Pledge of Allegiance, and everybody did fine. It was time for the Texas Pledge.
Joke. I've seen that.
Boys and girls, I'm from Chicago. I led the Texas Pledge.
And Chicago ain't in Texas. Yeah, I knew that story. She had told me that once before. But it really is. It's really, we do so many things by habit. And then when you change the habit, you change the circumstances, and that's when Buchanan starts tripping and falling as he goes. I'm really embarrassed by that. 'Cause I'll make you a bet. I say, now I realize a lot of people say it a lot more than this. I'll make you a bet. I say that the Lord's Prayer at least 100 times a year. At least 100 times. If I figure every single solitary Sunday and all the other possible applications of it, I'd say I've now been doing it for a few years now. And the end result is I can't say it by myself. Lord, what have I done wrong here?
Neil Funeral Home. Neil Funeral Home was going to hold a singing on the 13th. They have altered the date slightly to June 20th. Okay, so we'll get that corrected on the information we have out. But here we go. Neil Funeral Home is going to have a singing on June 20th. How you like that? We're like a live bulletin board.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. This is fun. Anyway, all right. More pet peeves. More pet peeves. People.
You asking or you telling?
No, I'm telling. People
okay.
that tell me my dog shouldn't live in my house. They should be outside dogs.
Boy, I'm sure in trouble with that one.
Yeah. Yeah, my dogs live in my house. You don't. I just don't like dogs in a house. Then don't put them in your house.
That's exactly right. It's really simple. But don't tell Tiffany how to do it either.
That's right. That's a pet peeve.
I've only had dogs in my house for...
How old are you?
All to tell you is I remember the first one was Brownie.
Brownie?
Okay. That was, I was about 4 years old.
When was what was the name of the first dog we had as a family? Was Ruff, R-U-F-F, big German Shepherd, and he was a cool dog. I loved Ruff, man. He was a great dog. What?
I just thought of something.
Uh-oh.
Go ahead, finish your
That
story.
was it. Just Ruff was. And Ruff was the sweetest German Shepherd in the history of the world till you messed with his kids, and I was one of his kids. Don't mess with his kids.
That Brownie dog was just a big old mongrel dog.
Just a dog.
And just a dog. But when he was outside the house, he could be aggressive, okay? And he was allowed to run out and run and do his thing and come back in. and we didn't have a fence. Well, we did have a fence, but they let him out the front door, and then there was no fence. But anyway, the point was he had either attacked somebody or it bit somebody or something like that. Anyway, he was not being a good dog, and he was back in the house now, and the police came. It's because I'll tell you, folks, we didn't have the police in our house very often.
And that's a good thing.
And that's a good thing, really.
Right.
Police came to the house because a complaint had been filed. This dog had
bit him.
Yeah, and so my mother, who was more than a little bit aggressive when she wanted to be, starts telling these Abilene police officers how the cow ate the cabbage, and don't you come in here threatening my dog. Don't you come here with and all this stuff. And they got to go ahead and finish it. And he said, "Okay, Ms. Buchanan, thank you very much. Now, do you want me to take your dog with me now, or do you want to follow my instructions?" And he said, "No, you had your say. Now you shut up and listen." And I'm standing here 4 years old or something like that. I've never heard anybody talk back to my mother in my life, and I think it's the coolest moment of my life. And I'm laughing and clapping my hands and everything else.
Somebody told Mom.
Did not help the situation. I'm rooting for the police officers because they're telling my mother to shut up.
Okay, we have a pet peeve from Facebook, and this is one of your pet peeves.
Okay.
All right.
I hadn't told that story about Brownie for a long time.
Yeah, people don't tell moms very much. Moms are ball. Okay, here's your pet peeve, Bill, and it's also Brenda's pet peeve. People riding the highway, coasting along in the left-hand passing lane. This drives Bill Buchanan nuts. If I'm driving and I'm in the left-hand lane, and it doesn't matter if I'm passing somebody or whatever, or getting ready to turn. Oh, don't you start with me. No.
There's a place for that left-hand lane. I only criticize you when you're not following that place.
I am in the left-hand lane because I'm driving faster than every other human. Should I say that where DPS can hear me?
Maybe not. Maybe not so much. And if not, I'm going to call them and tell them.
Anyway, so that is one of Bill's. Man, it just frustrates him to no end. Okay, pet peeves. People who say, "You know what I'm saying." Okay, yeah, I'm with that. And the other one that's if you're having
I know exactly what you're. That's so cool. I know that one.
If you're having a conversation, or maybe trying to make a sentence.
We all have bad habits like that.
We do. English language. I'm kind of picky about the English language. Hair in the sink. People who smack their food. Slow traffic in the fast lane. Debbie, too.
Go for it. Way to go, Debbie. Hey, incidentally, I just got a message here from Nixel.
Okay.
And I don't think they're.
No, it's not a pet peeve from Nixel?
No, it's not a pet peeve. But I'm told that the emergency water line repairs will begin on FM 2684. So citizens of the South Liberty oil field will have no water, not low water pressure, but no water for 2 to 6 hours.
If
you live down the south,
Has it already started?
No, as of 10 a.m.
Okay.
I just saw that. Thank you for asking that question. 10 a.m. As of 10 a.m., emergency water line repairs will begin on 2684, that's South Liberty Oil Field Road. So citizens down that way will have no water for 2 to 6 hours. Wow.
2 or 4 to 6?
2 to 6 hours.
Okay. 6. Emergency water line repair.
And they're shutting that sucker down completely.
Yeah. Brenda gave us a smiley face.
Oh, did she?
Yeah. So
Thank you, Brenda.
Brenda's not alone.
Brenda, you're getting up off early for a lady that went to sleep so doggone late.
This is not your Brenda. This is a different Brenda.
Oh, this is another Brenda. Brenda
Right.
lives. My buddy Brenda listens to us quite a bit on the party line, so I thought that was her.
Yesterday, she sent me a text message. We were goofing off and doing something, and I looked at the camera and waved and said, "Hi, Mom." And so she sent me a text message. She said, "That was funny," which means she's easily amused. No, this is Brenda Lee Hayden.
Okay. Hi, Brenda Lee Hayden.
Yeah.
Good to have you.
And there you go. All right, so there's a couple of pet peeves. More pet peeves.
Go ahead.
Telling me if I wear a mask out in public, I'm giving into fear.
Oh, good grief.
No, I'm
Thank you for
wearing a
bringing-
mask. That's all I'm doing, folks. I'm doing a little bit to protect me from you and you from me. That's it. I'm not giving into fear. I just don't want your germs. That's it. I'm fine. You keep your germs. You don't have to give them to me. If you have the flu, let's skip COVID. if you tied my hands down, could I say anything?
Not a word.
If you have the flu, stay away from me. If you have the flu, don't cough on me. If you have the flu, don't sneeze on me. Why would it be any different for COVID?
Clearly, you're right. There's no question about it. But there's a TV story that's running around about the guy that somebody, I believe it's a lady, in a big box store in some other state, and I'm not saying it hadn't happened here because it has, but just absolutely, took on the police, was going to fight him, and as a matter of fact, I think was finally arrested for that attacking the police officer. But nevertheless, because they wanted this store had a policy: if you're going to come and shop in this store, you need to have your mask on. And see, you're defying my rights and stuff like this. And I have a right to do anything I'll doggone well please. Well, maybe not. We have an epidemic going on here, and you're trying to spread it. That's what your intention is when you come in there and don't follow the instructions.
It's also those stores are private businesses, and they have a right to set rules.
They set their own rules. Yeah, within limits.
Right.
There's some things they can't do.
Right, but there are rules that they can set.
And what bothers me a lot about that one is unless you get into one of these scientifically constructed masks, the masks that most of us get, the masks that I have, and I think I'm correct in saying that Tiffany has.
Well, yeah, they're the same. Jana made them both.
Well, yeah, okay. Well, we got some others.
Okay, that's true.
But you're right. Jana made a bunch of masks for the staff down here. But at any rate, those masks are mainly to keep me from coughing or sneezing or whatever onto somebody else. It's not a mask that's going to save me from the coronavirus for the most part. But if you have a mask on and I have a mask on, then we have done our job to try to keep that coronavirus, the COVID-19 from spreading to other people and to us, because both sides of the conversation, everybody had the mask on, and now we're all making it. Don't tell me about your rights. We're talking about a novel pandemic. One of the reasons I think everybody gets upset about this is because they never said do that before on anything else. Well, first of all, you probably weren't alive when the Asiatic flu epidemic hit, but there was all kinds of precautions taken when I was here in the 1950s when the Asiatic
flu, they required masks.
Okay, and that was
19 something.
Yeah,
right there, early 1900s.
And the fact is, it's our attempt to keep me from spreading my disease to you if I happen to have it, whether I've got the symptoms or not. We all know now, and these are things that we've learned. This novel disease is called the novel virus because one thing they've never had it before. They don't know how to fight it. So let's do those kinds of things that we can to keep us apart from each other while we get the rest of the job done, while we find the vaccination, while we find the way to keep you from giving me the flu and you giving Tiffany giving me hers, me giving them mine, and make sure that we have a chance to survive this daggone thing until the scientists do what they're best at and do their work. And I'm going to say this is what. Oh no, I'm not going to say that. I was going to say something.
Judy's on Facebook and she said masks are good. You know what though? When I wore my Batman mask, nobody thought it was good.
Well,
my Lone Ranger
a
mask?
lot of people who've seen me in the mask say, "Boy, that's a big improvement for you, Buchanan." That's a big improvement. Thank you very much. But those masks are not scientific that are made at home. They're just meant for me, my spray to keep and get out to somebody else, and your spray from getting to me.
That's gross.
It does sound gross. It really does, but that's part of what it's all about.
Social distancing. I'm good with that. Don't crowd me.
Yeah. Well, you're like that all.
I'm like that all the time. My friend Vita said, "This is perfect for you. We need more pandemics. You're happy." I said, "I know. Nobody hugs me. I love it." The South, y'all are huggers. Okay, for not being from the South, you're hard to get used to. I'm used to them now. I really am. There's a few of them I'll actually instigate the hug.
Yeah.
I'm getting used to them now.
Yeah. It's okay.
It's okay. But yeah. It's 10 minutes after the hour of 9 o'clock. Do we have any last moment pet peeves?
I just got to sling all my anger, and now we've started having fun with it.
Hold it.
Hold it.
I want a picture of this. I wonder if they can post a picture on a Facebook feed live. This lady's mask has pink flamingos.
Oh, really? Long-legged pink flamingos?
No, the short-legged variety.
Oh, okay. Got it. Okay, good enough.
Hunter's mask has basketballs on it.
He's a big fan.
Let's see. There's some custom masks over. They were telling me the DCDC has their logo on some of their masks. We need masks with KSHN.com logos.
Well, what are you sitting here for?
Because I don't know how to do it.
Me too, neither. Debbie!
Yeah. Okay. Well, there you go. A pink flamingo mask. That is fabulous. Anyway, all right. So, any last minute
No.
pet peeves?
I sat here and made a fool of myself, pounding the table and screamed about stuff. So I'm through that now. I feel better now.
Yeah, but we also had a little fun.
Yeah, we did.
We found out that people don't like slow drivers in the fast lane.
Yeah.
We found out that Tiffany needs to slow down when she drives. Maybe just a smidge. We found out Debbie doesn't like slow traffic in the fast lane.
You know, I've talked to police about that conversationally. We just wondered about, and they said our directions are really to not enforce that if they're not breaking the speed limit, unless it's marked. If the highway is marked, slow traffic, use the right lane, then we'll stop them and give them a ticket.
Really?
If they're not, yeah, and that I realize I'm telling something that I probably shouldn't, but they said purely simple. It would take you forever to stop all the people who do this. But if it's marked, if it's a highway that's marked, and many are, slow traffic, we stay in the right lane, then we're going to give them a ticket for it.
That's not fair because
Or a warning at least, whatever the situation.
every time I blow past one of those DPS troopers at 95 to 100 miles an hour, they pull me over, and there's not a single sign out there that says "Don't drive that fast."
It says that sign. It's not an estimate.
That's a suggestion.
It's not a suggestion. It's the speed limit you're not supposed to exceed. Well, she's getting all kinds.
Another one. Pet peeve: people who are always late, no matter what. I agree. I understand things happen.
Would you please tell Jana that?
No. I have a joke, and I can't tell. Well, though, I have told it several times. I used to tell Janet to meet me somewhere at 6, and I would get there at 10 after, knowing full well so would she. And I made that comment to her one time, and from then on, she was on time, and I was late, and she did it just to make a fool out of me. So I am not messing with that woman no more. No more.
I've been around her for a while now. I know that she'll box you in the corner pretty quick.
Yes, she will. She will. Yeah, but I like that. People who are always late, no matter what. Speaking of late, we're supposed to end the show at 9. It's 13 minutes after.
Oh, yeah, like we always do, too.
Absolutely. It always ends at 9.
It's been fun.
It has.
Just to sit here and chit-chat.
Okay, starting at 10 o'clock this morning, water line 2684 South Liberty Oil Field, emergency water line repair. You folks down there will be out of water for 2 to 6 hours.
Yeah, not just low pressure. They're shutting it off.
It's gone. So fill up the bath. No, don't fill up the bathtub. Just fill up a few bottles of water. You'll be okay. Fill up the coffee pot. Let's get our priorities straight. 10 o'clock, 2684, that's South Liberty Oilfield here in Liberty. Emergency water line repair starts at 10. Neil Funeral Home.
2 to 6 hours. From 2 o'clock. I'm sorry. From 2 to 6 hours, no water at all.
Starting at 10.
Would you say that for me? Because I really did a bad job of it.
No, I'm just going to laugh.
From 2 to 6 hours, you'll have no water at all.
Neil Funeral Home has a singing planned. They have rescheduled the date. The singing will be held June 20th. Okay? Let's go make sure I said that right. Yes, I said that right.
Neil Funeral Home incident is in Cleveland, Texas.
Great people.
Yeah,
So,
very nice people.
there you go. All right, now that's everything we know about everything we know. With any luck at all of you people know a lot more. If not, yeah, come on down.
You're not suggesting that they learned that from us today, are you?
No.
You're giving us a whole lot more credit than we deserve.
No, they know a lot more because they're just smart people. They're our peeps.
That takes us back a year or so.
Okay. All right, boys and girls, say goodnight, Gracie.
Nope. Good night. Good night. Good night, Tiffany. Gracie, good
Thank
grief.
you.